Birth prep throughout the day. So let's learn some techniques and some tips and some tricks to help you move better throughout your day. So the goal is not to always add more things to your day to feel guilty about not doing. It's about learning how to do the things you're already doing in a more functional way. So today we're going to learn about neutral pelvis. Neutral pelvis is the position where your pelvic floor and your respiratory diaphragm work best together. And now we know we need the pelvic floor to be responsive because baby has to pass through it. How do most people sit throughout the day? We sit like this. We tuck our pelvis under. And now what happens when we're tucking our pelvis under is that we're sitting on the sacrum and this pelvic floor is kind of sitting in a more tense, shortened position. And now we don't want our pelvic floor to be tense. We want it to be able to yield for a baby to pass through it. So sitting in a more neutral pelvis position in your desk chair or wherever you are is a really functional way to prepare for birth. So what even is neutral pelvis? So first we need to know a couple bony landmarks. So these two little sticky outy bones here are called your anterior, superior, iliac spine. You can just call them your frontal hip bones. And they're these sticky outy bones in the front. So try and find your sticky outy frontal hip bones. And then the other bone you're gonna find is your pubic bone or your pubic symphysis. On the pelvis model, it looks like these two bones and this one. So here is an image of neutral pelvis. Neutral pelvis is the position where those bones are stacked in a vertical plane. So in my own body, if I bring the ASIS in front of the pubic symphysis, I'm going to be in an anterior pelvic tilt. This is going to have a bigger curve in the lower back. It's going to over lengthen the abdominals. It's going to over lengthen the glutes and the hamstrings. Not super functional. Then we can go the other way. When the pubic bone comes in front of the ASIS, now we're in what's known as a posterior pelvic tilt. That is shortening these tissues and is creating a lot of compression in the abdominals. And now finding neutral is this position where they are resting on top of one another. There's a natural curve in the lower back. The ribs are not thrusted, they're not compressed in, they're just naturally relaxed down. So now let's look at it in a seated position. Please note the goal is not to force neutral alignment. The goal is to work with movement and repatterning to help make that our normal. But when you're sitting in your chair, at work, at home, it can be really helpful to understand how to bolster ourselves into a more neutral position so that the pelvic floor receives that load and is able to be held in a more lengthened position. Neutral pelvis is the position that our pelvic floor and our respiratory diaphragm work best together. So birth prep is not just about doing all these exercises and going to all these massage and body workers. It's also about learning how to move better throughout our day. And sitting is a really great opportunity to give our pelvic floor some love. So how do people tend to typically sit? We typically tend to sit with this tucked under pelvis. This is creating tension in the backside of our pelvic floor that we actually need to lengthen for the birthing process. And so it's not ideal. But trying to get to neutral pelvis, we don't want to force ourselves into neutral by using the lower back muscles. That's just going to cause pain. So we need to learn how to relax into neutral, enter in bolstering. I like just taking a simple bath towel, rolling it up, placing it on my chair, and then I'm going to sit on it, put it right under your sits bones. And now I can relax into neutral. So find your two sticky outy hip bones, your pubic bone, those should be stacked vertically. If it still feels like your back is very tense, you might have a little more tension in your posterior chain than me. You can bolster up even higher. So bolster yourself in a position that you can relax into neutral pelvis. Now my pelvic floor is getting a lengthening load. My pelvic floor is able to be responsive to my breathing patterns. And just sitting like this, instead of sitting like this all day, is setting you up so well for a more functional pelvic floor, a more functional core, and a more efficient birthing process.